What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? That's right, it's Hood Story time again. And today we're going to be talking about Browning Street. For reference, if you want to see where I used to live and lived for pretty much a long time, I'll be referencing this. I have a video on it, and it'll say Browning Street, Pollock Town. Um, Today I want to talk about this guy named Trey. This guy, uh, for you younger guys, stay away from guys like this in your circle, man. I mean, there may be some guys um, that you haven't identified yet in your circle that you really need to get away from. And we're going to be talking about him. This is an instance where I had some neighbors that were really car thieves. I made a video about that once. Um, but they at one point they decided not to steal cars anymore. That they decided to they wanted to sell drugs because everyone in the neighborhood in Camden it was called an outdoor drug bazaar by the Courier Post, which hated people from Camden. It was Camden was nicknamed Baby Beirut in uh, 1991 because the shootings, and it was actually the most dangerous city in America in 1991. And what happened was, I guess they were, tired of just stealing cars, chopping them up, and all that kind of stuff. So one of the guys actually got his name was Mike, and unfortunately he passed. He's also in one of my previous videos about the 22 caliber as perfect for self defense because he actually got shot with a 22 caliber and died. Mike was a cool dude. He's one of my homeboys, but we had beef at one point in time when he got his a settlement for a car accident he was in. It was pretty bad, so he got a sizable amount of settlement for the car accident, and but he was stealing cars all along, and then he decided to become a big time drug dealer. So he went out and bought a really nice car with big hammer rims and very nice Jeep with a rag top on it, green, money green, never forget, beautiful car, nice system in it and all that. Was system is basically a knock or a loud stereo system, right? We used to call him a knock. He had a knock in it. You could hear it from blocks away. It was really nice, real crisp and clean. Um, it's funny how back then they even used to have stereo knocks with contests, and they used to have that at the Pennsauken Mart in Pennsauken, New Jersey, in the parking lot. And boy, the stuff they used to put on them cars, good grief. But anyway, um, he basically what happened was um, he decided to sell drugs, and nobody in the block wanted that to happen. It was bad enough. They were selling drugs around the corner. They were selling drugs up the street. The whole neighborhood, Pollock Town, was basically one of the worst places. They were selling drugs on every corner. So we didn't want them to sell drugs across the street from our house. No one on the block wanted it to happen because we know once somebody starts selling drugs and everything, what happens is that they basically all the drug dealers, the stick up kids, and all that, they start showing up. You know what I'm saying? And after that happens, anybody on the block could be fall victim of the dudes that's on drugs. They try to take your mom's purse coming in from work. They'll try to your sisters coming in the house from clubbing that night. They'll be out there trying to buy drugs. They try to rob them coming out the car, especially if they had to park around the block when they come home from the club or something like that. And that was what I was worried about. I was worried about my mom. I was worried about my two sisters. I wasn't worried about my brother because he was a dude. You know what to do. You know what I'm saying? Definitely wasn't worried about myself. So the reason why I got a picture of this shotgun, this is the same shotgun I had way back then, except I had a wood furniture on it. I changed all that out. And this more likely was my gun that I was using at that time for home defense. It was probably by my window, on my desk, or something like that, or next to my bed. And okay, long story short, well, not really. It's not going to be a short story. This is complicated. Sorry. Basically, Mike wanted to sell drugs, so I got to Mike's face. We were beefing over this, and I told him, look, simple. I said, look, do not sell drugs on this block because my sisters, and because of my mom, and because the whole block. It's just going to ruin the whole block if you do that. Because stick up boys be coming through here the whole nine, right? So, he was like, man, I could do what I want. I said, at first, he wasn't even from Camden. He was from Lawnside. He was from the suburbs, but he had friends from Camden, which were my neighbors who, have deep roots in Lawnside, New Jersey. And I told him, I said, listen, man, and he tried to, bark bad to me. I don't know why, but I said, listen, I'm gonna tell you this: if you start selling drugs, man, bad things gonna happen. And in my mind, I was gonna send some of the guys that I knew did stick ups around to stick him up, so he'd be broke within a month, right? So basically, and this is before Christ Day, so all right, I'm in Jesus now, but this stuff that I had to go through in Camden, right, to keep the block safe from drugs. So then I told him, I said, listen, if any of the cars in my family get a scratch on them, get stolen, anything, I told him straight up, it'll be your face I put a bullet in. That's what I told him, right? He heard that, and he saw the look on my face. He was serious. They did not sell drugs on that block after that, because he knew that although I wasn't a drug dealer, he knew who I was connected to, and not only me. One of the guys from the Sons of Malcolm X across the street, his name was Chris. He lived in his father's house. His father had passed, unfortunately, but his father left him the house, so he was staying there. And he wouldn't stay out in North Camden where his family was at. He stayed out there because it was safer than North Camden at the time. And he basically told them the same thing. Look, if you sell drugs on the block, they're going to automatically think it is me. Chris was saying, yeah, they're going to blame me, right? So, because he was one of the sons of Malcolm X. So basically, he threatened them. He said, look, don't sell anything here or else. You know what I'm saying? Or he would have, did something to the whole crew. So they all agreed. Most of the dudes were our neighbors. So they were like, okay, we understand. Honestly, it was just Mike that was being hard-headed, and maybe this other dude named Dre. Right? So, okay. So they went to sell drugs down the street, way down the street near some garages. There was nothing there but garages with no houses or nothing. Where everybody was breathed a breath of relief. Said, "Great, this is great. They're not going to sell drugs on the block." But unfortunately, this one guy who has very poor impulse control, named Dre, decided that he was going to say F everybody, F Chris, F me, F all the old neighbors, all the neighbors on the block, F my boys that actually, were selling with him that lived on the block. They were like, yeah, you're right, we don't need to sell drugs because, their mom and dad and everybody was there too. So they said, yeah, that's not a good thing. He said F them too. And he decided one day, I'm laying in the bed. It's hot. It's probably about 95 degrees. Didn't have no air conditioning or anything. Got both windows up. I'm laying on the bed just cooling with the fan on, feeling good with my eyes shut. And I hear scuffle. I hear Chris's voice and I hear this dude Dre voice. So apparently what Dre did was he went out there and he was starting to sell drugs, and he actually did what's called busting a trap in front of Chris's house. That means he sold some drugs. I don't know what they were selling. I think it was crack or cocaine, powder cocaine, in front of Chris's house. Chris was in his living room. He told me he was sitting in his living room, minding his business, watching TV, and he see him sell drugs in front of his house. So Chris got up, walked out the front door. He cussed him out. They get into this argument. That's what I heard. And next thing you know, Chris proceeded to beat the brakes off his behind. Chris was about 6'2", about 203 pounds, and Dre was he's about 6'1", maybe 180 pounds. And yes, Chris beat the brakes off of him because he was selling drugs in front of his house. So then he knocks Dre out. He falls down. I'm watching this out my window because I had popped up. Dre then gets up and starts running like a little girl. Chris, I'm looking out the window. Chris is, mad, cussing him out while he's running. And Chris walks back into the house. And, I guess he resumes watching TV and air conditioning, right? So, next thing you know, I go lay down. I'm giggling. I'm laughing. I'm thinking to myself, well, we told him not to sell drugs on the block. Bad things was going to happen, right? He didn't listen. So, next thing you know, I basically was laying in the bed, and I hear a car pull up. Okay, normal, right? Then I hear more arguing. Then next thing you know, I hear a gunshot. So I'm like, oh, here we go. So I get up out the window. I'm peeking out the window, make sure they ain't shooting all on the block. I don't get hit by putting my, face near the window, whatever. And I've got the guns and all that stuff ready, just in case, right? So, all right, Mike. I see this Poppy. Poppy is a nickname for Puerto Ricans. It's a nickname of love that black people have for Puerto Ricans. We call them Poppy. Hey, what's up, Poppy? You know what I'm saying? That's how we greet Puerto Ricans in the hood, right? So basically, I see this Poppy Miliano um, out in the street, and I see Mike holding his neck, walking back to his truck. Um, Miliano had shot him in the neck. And that was the last time I seen Mike alive when he said he told Dre, who was driving the truck, because apparently Dre went and found him or called him, and he met up. And Mike came back with a gun to try to deal with stuff. You know what I'm saying? Because his boy got beat up, and Mill and Chris were actually real close friends. They were real tight. They were actually selling drugs somewhere else together. So Miliano shot him in the neck. I never seen Mike again. He died. The bullet went through his neck, hit his collarbone, and bounced around his entire body. He died. That was the last time I seen Mike. You know what I'm saying? And we had beef at one point, but after they decided they weren't selling drugs, we made peace. So at least I made peace with Mike before he died. I thank God for that, right? So basically, um, this guy Dre, right? Don't be this guy. Avoid dudes like that with all costs, because to this day, everybody that on the block blames Dre for that. Everybody on the block, because everybody had agreed that was not our block was not where you sell drugs. That's not. It doesn't happen here, right? Even the dudes whose house was there on the block said, "Nah, we not gonna sell here. We'll sell down the block where there's no houses," right? But him, because his poor impulse control, decided to sell drugs and then drag Mike into his fight that he could not win and got him killed. Avoid dudes like that, because they will get you in trouble. They will drag you down to the gutter, to the dirt, literally 6 feet under, right? Because if you really were to judge all the weight that was on Mike and on them guys not to sell drugs, you had me, who had the potential of getting all kinds of sticker boys, robbing them like 3 times or 4 times a day. Or if they try to do something crazy, come out the house, loaded up with all kinds of guns and ammo, right? You had Chris, who was the Sons of Malcolm X, and at that time, the Sons of Malcolm X was the most notorious drug gang in New Jersey. Yes, all kinds of articles, all kinds of papers, everything. You had a guy like that telling you, don't sell drugs here, right? And and his brother was actually one of the higher ups in the Sons of Malcolm X, who had unfortunately got shot and was living his life in a wheelchair. So that type of dude is telling you, don't do it. You know what I'm saying? And they're not even beefing with you like, we hate you. We're like, look, just don't do it. Just do it somewhere else. We don't care. But he did, this one dude, Dre, did it anyway. So a little background with Dre. Again, Dre is actually in prison right now. Apparently, Dre was paroled for, I guess, stealing the car, selling drugs at one point. And what happened was, Dre was on parole, and he was released to the parole halfway house. And he decided not to pay attention to the rules of the halfway house. So he decided to come in at 12 midnight. Can't do that unless you got a job that, you work at 11, give you an hour to get home or back to the halfway house. Well, he didn't do that. He didn't show up for 3 days after that midnight. At midnight he got written up, but then after that he didn't show up for 3 days. Then when he comes back with a gun, and then proceeds to hold the person at the front desk at gunpoint because he wanted to go and retrieve a porno tape and a couple T-shirts because they were his. Poor impulse control. And as a result of that, Dre was sentenced to 15 to 20 years. Now, Dre, if you know Dre personally, Dre was kind of cool. I really didn't have no beef with, never had beef with Dre. Dre, we always talked, he's cool, but we just all knew he had this poor impulse control thing that, he was capable of doing anything. And, you really have to examine, especially young guys, you guys in your 20s or younger, and even in your 30s, you got to really examine your friends, your circle of friends, because you got friends like that have no impulse control to poor impulse control. They're going to get you in trouble. They're going to get you hurt. Every single time. So he's an example. I use an example. He's in jail now. I hope and praise in the Lord Jesus Christ. So that will help him. I don't know if he realizes, but that will help him get that stuff under control. I've seen it before with many different dudes, but but again, this is Truck. This is Stories from the Hood. God bless you. Remember, Jesus coming soon. If you don't believe that, look at the world around us. Look at the turmoil, this country, and not only the country, United States. Don't be arrogant. Don't be prideful. Look at the world. The whole world is on lockdown. God has put the entire earth on lockdown because of sin. So take the opportunity to speak to Jesus Christ and accept him as your Lord and Savior today. He will change your life forever. In Jesus' name, God bless you, ladies and gentlemen. I will see you again this weekend.